Hi guys, welcome back to this brand new video. Today I'm going to show you the best recording settings for OBS 31 and also going to show you how to set up OBS. And first show you how to set up a scene, go into the actual OBS settings and of course the recording settings. And at the end I'm also going to show you some filters that will make your voice better in OBS. But first guys, if you want, you can go down on this video in the comment section and click on the first comment that I pinned. This will bring you to my Fiverr and here you can get a YouTube logo and banner or a modern minimalist YouTube logo and banner for your YouTube channel. But now back to the video. As I said here, I'm first going to show you how to add a scene. So what you want to do then right here is click right, do add. You can add a scene here. Now of course you can name it whatever you want. Then as you can see here, you have to make sure that the right scene is selected. And then we can go into sources here. So if I click right here, I'm going to do add. As you can see, I have a whole array of examples here. Now I usually do a display capture because obviously all I'm recording is a display. It's my actual Windows desktop basically. But you can also do, for example, window capture, but that's only going to be a specific window. So make sure that you know beforehand what you want to specifically record, because display capture, as I said, what I'm using really records every window that I show. And then of course you also have game capture. Now if I click on it right here, I'm going to click OK. You can basically capture full screen application here, but you can also do capture specific window. And that's what you're going to do in most cases, because you can see here, if you do window, now I don't have any games running, but if there was a game running, you would have selected that game in question. Make sure that you select that one. And then down here, as you can see, you can also capture the audio at the same time through OBS, but that's still in beta. And then also you have some smaller options right here, as you can see. I do advise you down here to make sure that's on sRGB in terms of the color space. And then you can click OK if you want to add a game capture basically. Now make sure that the one that you want to capture is always the one that's mostly on top, because as you can see, the source that's always mostly on top is actually the one that has a priority. So do make sure that you watch out for that. Now here, as you can see, I have display. Make sure that also the right display is selected. As you can see, I only have one right here, which is going to be my primary monitor. This is basically my screen. So I only have one choice here, but if you have multiple choices, if you have multiple screens, basically make sure that you select the right one that you want to record as well. And here you might have already seen, as you can see, I have the desktop audio here, which is going to be every noise like music, sounds in Windows. And then here, as you can see, it's my microphone that's currently recording. I'm actually going to show you later on how you add these audio tracks. And then last thing here, profile up here. If you click on it, you can add a new profile, and that profile will have all the settings that you basically keep in here. So the scenes, the sources, the audio settings will all be saved into that one profile. So you can of course have multiple ones, but once again, do keep in mind to select the right profile if you already have multiple ones, for example, obviously. So then we're actually going to go into the settings here. Now the first tab here is going to be the general tab. As you can see, we have the language, so I just put it to English. You can also update channel here. I made it to stable, latest, stable release by default. Make sure that one is selected and also automatically check for updates on startup, because you guessed it, it's quite important every time OBS actually has an update that you are immediately informed, and it also immediately shows you the fixes and changes so that you also know what has changed within OBS. So I definitely advise you to select this one. And then if you go further down here, as you can see, there's nothing else of note to keep in mind here, just some preferences. But you always want to make sure, by the way, to click apply on every tab that you go to. And so we're going to go to the appearance tab here. Now you might have noticed it if it's been a while since you have used OBS, or if it's actually the first time using OBS, if you haven't even downloaded and installed it yet. But basically there's now a tab apart from the rest that's actually about the appearance. So as you can see here, the theme is yummy and the style is classic. Basically gives you this kind of a dark theme, you could say, but not entirely. But you can also obviously change that if you want to a different color. But that is of course just a preference, it's just an appearance. And also, as I said, the general UI of OBS has changed a bit, but that depends on how long you haven't used OBS. But in any case, we're going to go to output here. I'm going to go to recording, obviously, because we're recording here. Make sure above here output mode is on advanced. Then down here, make sure that type is standard. Now here, as you can see, I have my recording path. So I of course have a specific recording path where I want my videos to be saved. In your case, this is obviously going to be different. So do make sure that you know where your files will be saved. And if you actually want to change that, you click on browse here and you make sure that you select the right path where you want your videos to be saved. Now down here, as you can see, the recording format, I have them MKV, but it will later automatically remix to MP4. So basically at the end, so I basically click on stop recording. It will automatically, so remix, so basically translate, convert another video format to MP4. So I have two files. I have the MKV file and I have the MP4 file. Now the MKV file you can obviously delete, but then of course after that you keep the MP4 file. Now you could alternatively also choose fragmented MP4, because it often fragments the video, so it saves it up until a certain point, and also hybrid MP4, but that one is still in beta. Now the reason why you shouldn't just go for MP4 itself is because MP4 generally isn't advised. If for example you're recording with MP4 and something happens, for example the power goes out, your computer crashes or whatever, the file will be corrupted, you will not be able to get that file, so whatever you've recorded up until that point will be lost. So definitely never choose on its own. Really just alternatively, as I said, go for fragmented MP4, or even try out, which is still in beta version, the hybrid MP4. But as I said, never MP4 by itself. Down here, also very important, the video encoder. I have it set here to AMD HW H.265, and then specifically the H EVC. Now, in case you also have these options with the AMD, I do advise you to use the H265 over the H264 AVC. Why is the 265 better? Because the file size will be smaller and the actual image quality will be better. You can also, though, if you have an NVIDIA, set it to NVIDIA NVENC, so NVENC, H.264 in this case. But that's in case you have an NVIDIA. I do advise you to set it to that. Now, X264 is also an option. This is often with people who don't really have a good graphics card or anything like that, or an outdated one. Now, it could be an option in 264, but it is not advised. This can quickly provoke an encoding overloaded, which means that your computer, specifically the CPU, will be overloaded and the recording will crash, or it will not record pretty well, jump over some parts in the recording. It'll basically be pretty bad, and pretty much OBS and your computer itself just wouldn't be able to handle the recording. But in case you are considering using that option, make sure that you lower the settings. So down in the rate control, you go to CBR and you put the CBR between 3000 and 10,000. But you have to look for yourself what is the best here in this case for your computer as well. But that's definitely what I advise you to use. CBR first of all, and then a pretty low bitrate, as I said, between 3000 and like 10,000. You can just test around for that. So that's when you have a more low-end PC, and that should definitely avoid an encoding overload, for example. But once again, check that for yourself. Then we have the audio encoder, also important. I just advise you to put this to FF, MPEG, AAC. Also important down here, rate control. As you can see, I have it set to CQP and the CQ level to 17. Now, approximately between 16 and 20 is where you can put this. The lower you put it, so around 16 or even 15, it's going to be lower quality. And then if you put it towards 20, it's going to be better quality. But you don't notice really the difference between what I've said, for example, like 17 or 18 maybe, and 20. So don't put it too high, don't put it up to 20. It isn't going to be really useful, it's a bit overkill. But you can put it down, as I said, around 16, 17 if you have decent to a good computer. Then of course you have the CBR right here, as I mentioned earlier. You can put this between like 3000 to 10,000 once again if you have a lower end PC. But if you have a better PC, you can easily put it around like 10,000 here to 50,000, for example, in terms of bitrate. So really keep that in mind, is also an option. Then you also have VBR. And VBR is for low-end PC because that will actually avoid you to have like these really big file sizes and pretty much just keep your bitrate quite down. So this is also something that would definitely help you in avoiding having any error codes, encoding overloaded, for example, but also just make sure that it's a decent quality and also that your computer can handle the recording. Then if you go into the audio tab right here, as you can see, make sure that every track is set to 320 in terms of audio bitrate. It's the maximum. I really advise you to use that. I don't actually use all of these tracks right here, but I do make sure that they're all set to 320 because that's simply just the best audio quality you can get. Then we're going to go to the actual audio tab here. Now here, as you can see up here, make sure this is on 48 kilohertz. And then here the channels, make sure they're on stereo always. And the desktop audio is going to be my speakers. So basically what I hear in terms of noise, as I said, like Windows sounds, YouTube, music. It's all going to be desktop audio and I want to hear it in my speakers, specifically my headphones. So that's what I selected here. And then here in the microphone, this is the one I'm using right now. So it's Blue Yeti microphone. It's actually going to be my microphone right here. So to make sure to set this up also right here before recording. In case you're using something else, for example, I've used a software in the past, like for example Voicemeeter. You want to make sure that you select Voicemeeter here, and that is definitely the one you have to select if you're using that as a software in the background, for example, and specifically the cable output right here. But actually nowadays I make my voice better with filters, as I said in the beginning of this video, which is also something I'm going to show you afterwards. Then we are actually finished in the actual audio tab. I'm going to go to the video tab. Now in the video tab here, as you can see, I've set it to 920 by 1080, which is an aspect ratio of 16 by 9. Now keep in mind that your base canvas here, resolution, is your monitor resolution, so the actual resolution of your screen in question. But the output scaled resolution is the actual output, so basically what OBS is going to show you in terms of resolution. So you can actually put this one higher, but do make sure that you keep the base canvas as it is with your actual screen size. But as I said, the output scaled resolution you can actually change and put it higher or even lower in that case. If for example you think that the resolution is too high, or your computer or OBS has a performance problem, you can always put this down to, for example, 1280 by 720 if really needed. Now as you can see, I don't require any downscale filter, but you can have that option. It'll be a drop down menu and you can actually see, I believe there are 3 or 4 options, and you have to see what works best for you. That's in case you really want to use these downscale filters and if your graphics card, for example, allows it. And then here, lastly, in the video tab, you can also check to put FPS down to 30. Now, I don't really advise you this. Nowadays, really, your computer should be able to handle 60 FPS, but really, in worst cases, you could consider bringing it down to 30, or just lower your settings and keep it at 60 FPS anyway. And then here, we're going to go to the next tab, which is going to be hotkeys. This basically allows you to select a key on your keyboard, and this will actually, for example, if I do one here, as you can see, it will start recording, or for example, pause recording, add actually chapters right here in the hybrid MP4, which is a possibility. So when you're actually going to go into a software that allows you to do video editing, basically a montage, like I have, for example, DaVinci Resolve, you can actually see those markers while you're doing the montage, while you're doing the edit of the video in question, and so you can easily distinguish certain parts. So if you want to create a keybind shortcut, basically a hotkey for that, you're just going to click here, and then you're going to select any key on your keyboard while you want to link that to. So that could be as useful. I don't use them, but it could be very useful. Accessibility, here you can basically change the colors and also depth. depth in case you're, for example, colorblind. Now here, lastly, in the advanced tab, process priority, as you can see right here, is on normal. You could put it on both normal or high. That's definitely something you can consider. It basically gives a priority to OBS while recording over other, for example, if you're, for example, doing a game, it will give some more priority to OBS itself and thus the recording rather than the game itself. And here, as you can see, nothing to change here. I would advise you to do direct 3D11, NV12 here. Set this to 709 and limited. You can put it on full, but that really changes the color. It's gonna make it a bit darker. So do make sure that you check if it's like full or limited, but there's nothing really big to change there. Now here, as I said earlier, very important. This is where I do the MKV and where it remixes to MP4, as you can see. So make sure that this one is checked here, automatically remix to MP4 in case you're using MKV. Very important. So as I said, once again, it will create a new file that's an MP4 and at the same time create an MKV file at the end. And as I said, you delete the MKV file and you keep the MP4 file. This makes sure that the recording cuts, even if your computer gets shut down, if there's a problem, the electricity goes out, it stops towards the point you recorded, the recording in question. So that's just an extra here. Make sure that, of course, this one is selected in case you're using MKV once again. Then as I said, every time you have to click apply and then you click OK here. Now, as I said, we have the two audio tracks here, the desktop audio and the microphone. Now, if I, for example, go to these three dots right here and go all the way down to advanced audio properties. And here, as you can see, I give a little boost in dB and a bit of volume for my microphone. So as you can see, it's at 2.7 dB. Now here you can actually balance between the left ear and the right ear or set it to mono, but I don't advise neither of them really, except for specific cases, I guess. Monitor off, you can actually go to monitor and output and you'll actually be able to hear yourself talk, if that's something you want, obviously. And here, as you can see, the tracks, as I showed earlier, the first one was my desktop audio and the second one, as you can see here, was my microphone. So here you can see it in terms of tracks, which one are active. There's a close here. And now lastly, as I said, I'm going to show you the filters that make my voice better within OBS. So basically, if I go back to the three dots here and I go to filters, as you can see here, all the active filters on my voice. Now if I go to the little plus in the corner here, you can see all of the integrated pretty much effects, plugins that make my voice better, or that affect my voice in any case. Now you have to check that because if you have, for example, any other software where you have plugins installed, for example, your DAWs where you make music in, for example, you could also look into adding them here within OBS. But here you can see those are all integrated. And so basically what I have here, as you can see, this is in a specific order. The order is pretty important here. Basically I start with a gain, so I made it a bit louder. The gain here, as I said, another 3.5 dB boost, as you can see here. And also very important is the EQ. This basically changes my voice. It changes my voice a bit in the highs. I have removed a bit in the mids right here. I don't want the voice to be too low, but I want to have a little boost in the lows. Now it's quite technical. I actually have a video up here which explains the OBS filters way better. I actually go in depth about which order you should add them and how they affect your voice. So if that's something you want to check out, it's up here in the right corner. But anyways, guys, I'm going to close this right here. There you go, guys. I already went over the basics here and also the best recording settings at the moment for good PCs, but also for low-end PCs. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, leave them down below. Please, if you like, would be really nice. Subscribe would also be really nice. And I hope to see you guys in my next video. Bye.